Welcome back, everyone, to the LJL unofficial broadcast. There we go. I got myself a little region locked there for a second. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I'm so thrown off coming into this next game is I didn't want to live in a world where the Hawks didn't, go from one triumph to another. Instead, their thunder's been stolen by Axiz now, who are, of course, on the verge of going up against Detention FocusMe in their next game. But from this game, are you away? What were Axiz doing that just honestly embarrassed the Hawks?
Well, they fought better together. And I think one of the most important things, especially later on, was also they weren't as aggressive. Even though their composition was super aggressive, right? 4 melee champs, a lot of CC, a lot of dive. They were actually the ones that almost always started the fight under their towers, because the enemy team, Hawks, for some reason decided to dive every single tower on the map. So maybe it was handed to Axiz a little bit. I don't want to downplay their level as well, because especially Eno impressed me from the top lane coming into the mid game. They actually made stuff happen. They fought back valiantly, even against the early botched dragon fight or setup, you could say. But yeah, mostly it was just Hawks overextending under enemy turrets and just ignoring everything that was in front of them.
I mean, Eno did it incredibly well. As I said, we came into for the whole team of Axiz, we came in there with, having, no expectations. They went 7-0-8. Megaman in the mid lane as well, 5-1 and 11 on our next pick. Just honestly, some eye-watering stuff. And even Honey, who, historically we've been waiting to show up for the squad, also got to look incredibly good in that last game. You couldn't ask for better momentum going into what will presumably be one of your toughest games of the season.
Yeah, and Axiz could actually go 2-0 this week now against, for them, every single game is probably the one they don't expect to win, but it would be a great start and would also knock down Detention FocusMe to the depth of despair in 0-3. Losing against Axiz would really be the nail in the coffin. Maybe that's a little bit too early to say in the third game of the season, but it would be a big wake-up call, at least. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. Hawks, unfortunate. I think all the Hawks fans, you can say that from first perspective, can be a little bit salty after that one, because it was possible to win. They were just outplayed later on as a team.
I mean, at least for the SoftBank Hawks, Dasher still managed to lock in some pretty good numbers there, but from pretty much everywhere else, I think Tussle, at least was proactive and got some work done. But Apperman on the Viego, was locked in anything. He was locked in the top lane, getting a CS lead, and that was basically his contribution to the whole game. Beyond that point, it didn't feel like there was too much of anything left to do when it came to the team fighting stage.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was really just thinking, what did Apperman play again? He won his lane, but on which champion? I had to look over to our sheet to actually confirm it was Viego, because he had no impact whatsoever. We saw so many great, especially late game Viego performances from the top lane in other regions. It's really surprising to see him not have any kind of impact in this game. So maybe back to the drawing board. Don't go for as much dive if you can't execute on it. Go back to traditional team comps, because there's a lot of promise in the laning phase at least, and that's one of the most important parts of the game.
All right, well, it does mean that the Hawks are done for this week, and I think, obviously for our wonderful viewers watching, they really want to see the Detention FocusMe matches. I want to get away from this match as a Hawks fan as soon as possible as well. So we'll be heading to a short break for Axiz return to see if they can shock us once again. We didn't think they could do it against the Hawks. We're almost certain they can't do it against Detention FocusMe, but we shall find out. Detention FocusMe, 2 games back to back coming up. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, one and all, to the LJL unofficial broadcast as we look to end the weekend the only way which it's allowed, which is, of course, with a double dose of Detention FocusMe. So, your way, so far this season, if you're a Detention fan, as of course you probably should be, things haven't looked amazing so far.
Well, if you talk about season, it actually has looked pretty good. But the split, yeah, not so much. They lost both games last week, and in a little bit of a strange fashion as well. They kind of threw the game against We3. A lot of people watching MSI maybe coming in and being excited about DFM saw a little bit of glimpses of DFM from MSI as well. Because if we think back to the second down one game, they should have won that one as well. So DFM is prone and maybe known for throwing as well here and there. That happened to them against We3 last week as well. But overall, the drafting has been sort of concern and a lot of discussion over for the main casters here. I listened to the podcast, and they were very concerned with the first draft. They played a little bit of a strange composition there. I think what they wanted to go for was Arya on Lulu, and then Steel probably on Zinzao. But Zinzao was picked away from them, so they had to go for Volibear. And Volibear Lulu did not really do anything. So in the end, they ended up having Ezreal Lulu as the main carries because AP Gragas can only contribute so much. It was actually a tank Gragas on top of that, so not even any kind of damage from the top lane. And the problem with Ezreal Lulu is possibly the worst enchanter for Ezreal because he does not really rely on many auto attacks, and she gets all the auto attack damage. So yeah, in the end, it didn't work out. I think the composition has potential if you go for Zinzao instead. But in the end, DFM, maybe a little bit of MSI hangover, as some people like to call it, with the meta reads here and there. So let's see if they do better here. Week 2, they have one more week to scrim, one more week to get together with the new old team members and actually work on their synergy again.
Well, let's find out what we're in for. Let's get to pick and ban for our penultimate game of the weekend. Detention FocusMe against Axiz. Axiz fresh off of their first win of the split against the Hawks. Axiz looked very good, but as you said, it would be an incredible week for Axiz to go 2-2. For Detention FocusMe, they've got to surely get a win here. As you said, against V3, it felt like a game that was very winnable.
If you think about this right now, if you look at the standings from this position, Axiz is actually ahead of Detention FocusMe.
That's
Probably, potentially, I'm just making assumptions here for the first time in their history. If they win this game, they're going to end the week ahead of Detention FocusMe, the legendary, the perpetual winners of this league. So Axiz on the verge of their biggest accomplishment ever, going 2-2 in 2 weeks.
Well, let's see what they've got for us. So, I guess anyway, what I'm looking for you to kind of bring in here, particularly, is to see what elements of the previous game against the Hawks Axiz can lean on, because obviously it worked in the previous game. Presumably, they would be going for something similar again.
So, 1 melee champ, let's count them. Do we go for 4 melees again? It worked decently for them. Their coordination looked on point, and they actually knew how to deal with Viego, so maybe not the pick to go for. But Evie, of course, very famous for his Nah. He had a pretty bad week last week. He got solo killed twice by Kinatu, if I remember correctly. So Evie maybe coming in with a little bit too much hubris off from his great performance over at MSI in Iceland. So he needs to settle back in Japan, come back to his supreme position in the top lane, because of course he's the uncontested best top lane in the league. This Lee Sin, good pick away after the last game, though of course it was actually Hawks piloting that one on the bot lane, but maybe trying again with the Lee Sin. And Axiz going for a more standard draft, AD, AP, AD in the top side, potentially. Oh, what is this?
Oh, we'll get Hoglet back on the Rumble, and the Thresh, we called that before as being a solid early pick. First of all, as we just pretty whipped through the bans and went through, for Axiz, they took out the Assassins and the mid lane Lucian. For DFM, they took out the Shielders and the top lane Renekton. So that's one of the few brought back in for Axiz with that Thresh. As for Diana, we'll be seeing her a lot over the course of today. Detention FocusMe will lean on her once again.
Yep, Diana into Rumble. That has risen to popularity overall everywhere in the world because Diana can actually just farm evenly with the Rumble and then try to have more teamfight impact. She can also maybe even try to kill the Rumble if she ever cares to invade. She doesn't really have to do that because Diana is also very content just farming up, getting to her power spikes, to her later levels and item breakpoints. The Rumble can't really contest her too much. The Senna ban on the side of Axiz now, so taking that one away from Utapon. A little bit surprising to me, but of course would go well with the rest of DFM's draft. So potentially pretty smart ban. I expect the Ezreal again because Utapon played 2 games of Ezreal last week. He didn't seem too super comfortable, but Ezreal, of course, his power level is insane right now. He's super strong with the potentially strongest build in the game on this champion, and would also complement a lot of the dive with more backline damage and self-sufficient safety and peel from the ADC position.
Yeah, so for DFM, they're going to have to show us at least some of that bottom lane right now. So you've had those 2 bans from Axiz to try and narrow down the pool.
Oh,
we still have got Jinx in the mix, as we are pre-reworked Tam Kench, so that's certainly going to be the guaranteed safety versus the Engage, and it will be the Engage that's locked in.
more engaged, and the Jinx is very obvious here. Like that you pointed that one out. This is what Jinx is supposed to be paired with. We just saw Jinx succeed without a Thresh, but this time around, Axiz actually getting back to the Jinx, and Honey had a great performance, so why not? Just try to go for the same again. I'm a little bit confused by DFM. I think it's still the Ezreal. Looking at the draft, I still think Ezreal fits the bill here, fits what they want to do. This time, Eno back on the Gwen, into Gnar in the matchup. Can look for a solo kill here there, but most of the time is pushed in. So once again, I expect Eno to fall behind a little bit in the early stages, but then maybe carry later on the game. Instead of the Ezreal, they could also go for Jhin. Assistance from behind, but not the same power level. I personally am a Jhin hater. I think he's absolutely useless. This champion is beyond useless, but maybe you can actually show something to me here. And into this lane at least should get priority and help steal out early on in the game.
Alright, so let's narrow... Well, let's actually, no, let's do the opposite. Let's widen our view out a little bit. Talk about what the teams are going for overall. We saw Axiz win in the previous game with some really good control over the team fights and such. Are we going to see a similar game from this time round, even if we've got slightly less melee champs?
Yeah, it's a more controlled draft this time around. It's actually very good in counter diving, which is exactly what DFM wants to do, the diving part. So I can actually see Axiz being very effective here in this draft. I'm very curious to see what the AI has to say, because in my opinion, their draft counters or answers, at least, what DFM has put together pretty well. DFM very reliant on outplays, on maybe even flanks from the side of Evi and Arya, setting up steal for success, Utapon from behind, and then gang maybe coming from all the sides. So it's a little bit of a guerrilla tactic from the side of DFM, coming from all sides and trying to overwhelm and maybe just get the odd pick on the other side. But in a straight up 5v5, I'd actually say I'd favor the side of Axiz here.
Oh, I mean, talking about the guerrilla tactics for DFM, that sounds very similar to what we were seeing from the Hawks here before, but ultimately that didn't work out terrifically well for them again. For anyone who's just tuning in, this is DFM's first of their 2 games of the day. They absolutely have to start winning here, because so far the summer has not been good to them, with losses in their first 2 games against Rascal Jester and V3 Esports, including that V3 game you said before, that really should have been theirs. For Axiz, they are on one of their rare victory highs. This is the best Axiz we're going to get. This is their opportunity to take down the gods.
Yeah, on a little bit more serious note for DFM, O2 looks bad, but it's against the 2 best teams. So even though they come in, they are supposedly the best team, the super team, they should win all the games. They at the start of the season, they came back from them, so I probably took a little bit more of a break compared to the other teams. Then they have a new team member or old team member, they have to reintegrate them into the team, so Gang of course coming back, as the support now that Steel has residency. So 3 Korean players, maybe there's a little bit of a communication issue. They didn't know when to translate, when to not translate. I don't actually know the levels of their players when it comes to Japanese and understanding each other. So all these factors can come into play, and they lost against the 2 best teams, and one of the losses was actually just a throw from their side. So I wouldn't actually press the panic button yet, but losing against Axiz could actually be that trigger, because Axiz should never beat DFM. Even if they put out their monitors, even if they collectively just disconnect their mouses, DFM should still win against them.
Well, I mean, from the very first moments of this game here, I'm not sure how to get the pronunciation quite right there. Starting off pretty bold, trying to catch Evie off guard by getting those early hits in. Yeah. Doesn't manage to get a conclusive victory of either sort. Both of these top laners, of course, have got their TPs to be able to get back into lane. Keep your eyes out for our early jungles, as Hoglet is actually making their way into the jungle. Down on the bottom side, though, the 2v2 is busting out. What? As there's the first blood for DFM. Axiz maybe stepping a bit too far, but Hoglet makes the way into the mid lane, and I think he's going to trade back as... What is going on? Honey gets the kill up against Utapon. It's a bloodbath in the mid. It's a bloodbath in the bottom. This is Axis's style. DFM, though, they're matching punch for punch with 2 kills on Utapon.
Okay, I have absolutely no idea what happened in the bottom. I think someone just overstepped into the range of the tower or something. There was a 150 damage crit on level 2. What? Where'd that come from? That is insane. Jin actually coming in with some damage, but that's an easy kill on the top lane. Overextension by Ino. Ino actually taking the flash on Gwen and then not flashing away from the gank. A little unfortunate there. But the mid lane, Arya has been a little bit prone to getting ganked early on. Let's look at this. What actually killed Honey this quickly? It wasn't actually Honey. It wasn't. That's a 150. Wow, I can't believe that deals so much damage. 4th hit from Utapon, just completely executing him. And 159 there on that 4th hit again. Jin in lane, pretty strong. I have to admit that. And now the gank on Ino, though.
Yeah, does still have that flash available, but Steel is right back up there to put the pressure on. Evie, I think, maybe a little freaked out as we head into the mid lane to have Hoglet gonna go for the surprise gank straight away.
No time to take a breath here. It's just constant action. And we're looking at a Rumble against Diana matchup. What's going to happen if this is, I don't know, Xin Zhao against, let's say Vi? I don't know. These 2 junglers are not supposed to gank this much. But both teams just want to go for kills. My point about Arya that was rudely interrupted by all the replays, as I know from the VCS as well, is that he struggled a little bit in the first week on the Lulu and also on the Twisted Fate later on in the game. He got caught by one very crucial Na ultimate into the wall. That actually was one of the main factors in the comeback of We3 Esports. So Arya, he is the star of the whole league. He's the best player in the whole league. He needs to get back to his level to carry his team out of this mini slump, you could say. And the start to this game did not look great because immediately again he got caught. One of the worst stats for him is his early tendency, I guess the word to use there, to die. Because he's the target of the first blood for 12 or 13% of all his games, which is quite high for a mid laner.
Yeah, I mean, I think for good reason. If you keep getting rewarded for it, you're going to encourage all opposing teams to follow the same kind of line of play. We'll be back in a second once that technical pause has been resolved. But, I mean, so looking at the game overall, from what we've seen so far, from all this ganking, all these plays going on, we come back in again to see another fight going on. Is this favouring Axiz here? Presumably they're not as individually skilled as players, but they certainly seem to be up for a fight every opportunity they get.
Well, you win 50% of the fights you take, so maybe just take all the fights, right? It's a, I don't know, it's a coin flip style of play. And maybe you can put a team like DFM off their game plan if you just force them to fight and react to all of your aggression, especially coming off of a victory. Of course, you're riding high, you're feeling it, you can actually really feel the 2-0 on the day. So maybe that's what's going to happen here for Axiz. We talked about this actually being a detriment for Hawks early on, right? coming off a victory, a hard-fought victory. But I think for Axiz, it's a little bit different. They don't expect to win games, so if they win games, it feels so great. They're all in a great mood, and they're just ready to take every fight they see.
See the AI actually favoring Axiz there. I presume
Yep.
this is based on just the on-paper compositions. Megamin does get the worst of that last trade. Arya has already burnt their TP though, so they should be able to see Megamin keeping themselves pretty safe. Of course, we are just in the pre-6 area here. A ton of extremely explosive ultimates to look forward to in a game that's already been hyper-aggressive.
Arya getting the better of the trades, and very nice stun from Utapon.
Gang almost getting the catch there. It looks like we're going to see a 4-person dive into the mid lane. Megamin does not have their flash available, so this is going to be a Terror Town as Steel grabs hold of the kill, and Axiz don't see it coming at all.
Very, very nice to see, and actually something Jhin players do a lot. We don't really have many great Jhin players across the world. I'd say Huanfeng and Reckless come to mind first as big Jhin players, and they always go for these kinds of roams into the mid lane just to W someone out of nowhere. You can't really anticipate, you can't really see the skill shot in time to react, and then it's a lot of damage and CC from afar. So I really like these kind of roams. Now Utapon 2-0-1. He's 10 CS behind, but the wave is crashing into him, so he probably can collect most of those CS. Can Hoglet get Eno a kill in the top lane? Evie has this Mega now available. Maybe gank afterwards, or just run away and take the crap instead. That's fine too.
I wonder, given that we've got Evie ahead right now on CS and with the kill in pocket as well, no completed item as of yet, but a few extra components, I think Evie's going to be looking to come back with something a little bit more heavier hitting. Is back to where we saw him before in previous games, with just the kind of existing up in the top lane, but unable to make progresses. Megaman does play pretty fiercely there, has got another multi-person gank coming in. They can't even get a significant ult out. I think they did burn the cooldown, but they couldn't get them out of the play.
Great coordination here to force mid gank after mid gank. So much setup from all these champions, right? It's actually the jungler doing the least in all these ganks. He's just there to contribute a little bit of damage. Maybe a slow, maybe a knockback, but it's really on Arya and Gang to land all the CC, maybe even on Utapon. So it's great coordination coming in, ganking mid lane over and over again, and trying to set up the star player in Arya, get him ahead, and let him carry later on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Arya and Utapon both with 2 kills apiece, and that small bounty, but you're right, Arya's the one getting ahead on CS, so for DFM, things seem to be coming together for them. We haven't seen the early Drake attempt as yet, nor up until this point have we had the chance to see any move in towards the Herald. DFM, though, they are going for it pretty much on spawn.
Yeah, a nice movement there once again. Mid lane already covered by the ADC. A mid laner can go into the river. Gang is only level 5, so that might be a little bit of an issue, but looking at the other side, Nemo actually only level 4, so he's not even close to his ultimate either, now hitting level 5. This should belong to DFM. Oh, and there's the engage from Gang again.
Visual control extremely good as Hoglet gets annihilated. Utapon, just like you said, is able to exert influence from the other side of the river. The vision control from DFM is immaculate, and they will be rewarded a kill and the Rift Herald as well, as DFM look to return to form.
Yeah, now it's really sad for Honey that he didn't stay in bot lane, because of course they wanted to go for the fight, but maybe it would have been the better call to just posture around there in safe distance and let Honey use his attack speed to get 1 or even 2 plates, because the Jhin, of course, moved out of lane. So we see superior movement, superior macro decisions from DFM in the early game, dominating this game. More than 2k advantage early on. This is what we thought DFM would look like early on this season.
Yeah, they are, I think, really delivering here. So the Herald should allow them to extend that goal lead even further. Down the bottom side, there's the catch. There's the combo crowd control. Though it's not getting maybe enough damage, Utapon will die. But it looks like for Hoglet, they will not be able to escape. The rocket goes wide, thanks to a nice dodge from Gang there. But that still leaves the tower for the taking if it was not for Steel coming in to rescue it.
Oh, it's the horror. Axe is actually falling for the thing that they got the kill or the game from. overdived from the enemy team. This time they overdived. This was horribly executed. Actually, Nemo hooked the enemy ADC out of the ultimate from the Rumble. The equalizer, actually no impact whatsoever. And then it's just two squishy champions under tower against Gang on the Leona. Easily stunned them under the tower. 2 kills for them. One even went to Utapon again. Look at this. It's an unfortunate situation because Nemo did not anticipate the hook going through to the ADC. He actually wanted to prevent Gang from moving in there.
What? Just got killed onto the tower by Arya, who is absolutely relentless in this game, up now to 4 kills. Evie?
It's complete and utter domination. This is DFM actually putting on a show here.
Utapon will get caught out a little bit. TP's coming in, but Honey's got a lot of time to get their damage down before it arrives. There we go, Utapon is taken out, and that does mean that Honey is back in the saddle here with access potentially to this first Mountain Drake for Axiz, who have been looking for some good news for a while.
Well, he's forced to flash again. Honey, now once again super vulnerable, can be susceptible to further ganks and further attempts. Oh, Eno.
Steel just dropping the Rift Herald in Eno's face because they don't care what Eno thinks about any of this, as Evie chases them away and shows how powerless the Axiz top laner is right now to deny the inexorable advance of DFM. That's the first tower down. That's all of the plating across the DFM who are looking to grow their gold lead. They're already up by nearly 4,000 gold before 12 minutes.
So the only hope is to attack bot lane over and over and over again. Maybe we can find some success here. 1 kill. Teleport coming in from Evie. Nope.
Not bad at all. You get a kill and you get a TP for free out of Evie. Give, some room back in. But there are no objectives left on the map at all to go for. There's no Herald and no Drake.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a consolation prize for Axiz. They had to do something, but they really need to get a little bit of gold on Eno, because Eno is so insanely far behind. It doesn't even matter if Avi flashes or uses his teleport to the bot lane, because he's still 30 CS, 20 CS now, I guess, ahead. And got the tower, got the plating gold, got a kill, got 2 assists, so he's not even close to the goal of Eno, so he can actually do whatever he wants on the map. It's still a nice kill and went over to Hoglet, so the mid-game power, maybe the level 11 power spike from the Rumble could give them a little bit of hope. A good equalizer into nice executions and resets for Honey. Maybe that's the way back into the game.
I mean, certainly the kills are more or less where they need to be for the Axiz side. Hoglet with 3 and Honey with 2 so far. We have got the completed Kraken Slayer for Honey's Jinx, so they will be hitting pretty down hard. But over on DFM side of things, we've got multiple mythics completed. Protobelt, we've got Arya as well, gonna have that Gore Drinker. And of course, for Utapon, even more safety. As much as they don't have any shielding in this game, but they've got the safety of the range, and they've now got the safety of the Gale Force as well, in case they do get caught.
Honestly, anything else on Jhin is just troll. So he doesn't really have many options, to be honest, because Kraken Slayer on Jhin is just reportable, in my opinion, because the third hit never happens. So please don't go for that item. The execution damage can actually be a nice follow-up on the 4th shot, or even enabling you to get in range of the 4th shot. So it's a nice combo for Jhin. He has quite a lot of damage under his belt, but of course on the other side, Jinx, 1 item Jinx, that's going to be more DPS on the long run. This Jinx, Conqueror once again, of course it's the same player, so logical that he goes for the same choice. I'm still not sure if you really want the Conqueror here against all the burst on the other side. Do you ever get to stack that one up? But much more importantly, Megawin, oh man.
Yeah, not going to get very much chance to stack up there, though they do have the shield. Equalizer comes in from the side. There's a Protobelt recently picked up by the Rumbles gang. Does get taken incredibly low and does fall. But that's still the 2 assists. The 3 assists and the 2 kills going across to DFM. As Axiz lose their main body of players in the mid lane. And presumably, they're going to lose a lot of, if not all, of that mid lane tower.
Yeah, that's when you cue one of my favorite memes, the one from with the "but why," when he takes off this mask and just goes, "But why?" Yeah, this is a little bit of a questionable play from Hoglid. He flashes, he ults, and then goes for a kill on the support to get 300 gold, while he is worth a shutdown. That gets over to much more important member on the other side, so just a desperation play, maybe a little bit of a tilt play even, after the mid laner dies again. Megaman way overextended with no vision on either side of him. So Hoglid already looking a little bit tilted here. Now, oh, he's overstepping. Needs to be careful to not die immediately again.
As we saw that as we come up to the second Rift Herald, the DFM getting nearly 5 times as much tower plating gold as the fight starts once again. Gang will get a little caught up here. Equalize, of course. The confined space will be very, very strong. This time round, for Axiz, the fight starts better. The rocket does do a decent amount of damage as Steel gets pulled back in. Decides to go back in. These AoE stun can't quite get the job done as Arya's going to drop here. Axiz, they could actually win this fight, and I think they have.
Yeah, they just played around the corners of this one spot, the one choke point there so well, just going in and out of vision and no way for the enemy team to really commit to this one because it's so scary into the likes of Nemo, even Honey with all the AoE damage on the Jinx, and then Eno putting down his mist to not get killed early on from the poke and Utapon's shots there. So very nice execution for Axiz, once again showing us once mid game comes, they can team fight, and this was the perfect fight for them to take. Look at this again. It looks pretty dire with Hoglid getting caught there. And it's only 4v5, but that's honestly probably positive for them because Gang overextends. Now you can see Utapon, he can never participate in this fight. He's Jin, just walking around, doesn't do anything. And now everyone is zoned. Gang has shot everything is in his arsenal, so he can't do anything. He tries again. He's very, very weak right now, so he can't follow up. So everyone just overextending from DFM into this choke point, but not following through. Avi never gets in there. He has flash available, so flash ultimate could have been an option there. Never follows up. Disconnect on DFM maybe, but Axiz. I want to praise Axiz instead of flaming DFM because I thought this was actually very nicely done from them.
Yeah, I mean the grounds for engagement seem to be absolutely perfect. This rumble to have a massive impact. The DFM, they're gonna watch out for those choke points in the future. So Herald now in the hands of Axiz, at least Herald number 2. They won't be able to get any plates off of it, but coming up to 18 minutes, Axiz, they are still within reach of DFM's gold total. This isn't the wash we would have expected from the DFM we saw, at MSI in the last split.
Yeah, they closed the gold gap to an only 2k gold gap with a better teamfighting composition, and 2k, you can definitely overcome 2k, you can outfight a 2k gold disadvantage. The later the game goes, the stronger Eno is going to get, the stronger Honey is going to get, the tankier Megamin is going to get, so it's actually looking pretty good for Axiz again. Of course, still I'd favor DFM, because they are still ahead, and they are looking quite scary, especially if you look at Arya. Right? It's not as easy as it looked to be a few minutes ago.
There we go. A zoning equalizer allows the Herald access to the mid lane tower that won't knock it over entirely. So you can see there that the 2 highest level players are on the DFM side of things. They're still, Detention FocusMe are still very much in control, especially with 5 kills on their mid laner to the 0 for Axiz. But we keep seeing these little moments where Axiz continue to surprise us. They certainly did it in the previous game against the Hawks. They don't seem to be intimidated by Detention FocusMe here, despite the fact that I think you'd fully expect them to be.
Yeah, I think they're riding the wave. They're on a purple patch right now. They are feeling great, and they want to continue to win. Just it doesn't matter who's up against them right now. They're just feeling good on stage. And the enemy team actually punished them and got them behind early on. Maybe the momentum was about to shift towards DFM again, but then they get one good team fight. They're actually feeling great about themselves again. Hoglid untilts because early on he looked pretty tilted with his mid laner just running it down over and over again. Now he's back in the game, and Honey's scaling, everyone is scaling up, the team fight is looking great. And I think DFM actually has to look for a way to get, I won't say a whole win condition because I think they can still outfight the enemy team, but they have to maybe reassure themselves on the game plan, because right now it's looking a little bit confused from their side.
Yeah, I mean, if the goal lead is staying the same as these minutes wind on, surely that's got to be good for Axiz when they've got so much work to do with Eno here. to try and get them back into the game. You know, they've got their first the mythic in, they've got the boots, they've got as well the stopwatch in case Evie does decide to make the all-in. So maybe, just maybe, this Gwen gets to be an actual champion this game.
Interesting there. Hoglet just clear out the wave. Everyone from DFM in the mid lane, just the J-Rum, trying to force this mid lane tower over and over again so desperately. But every single time Axiz is there to catch the wave to prevent this from falling. So DFM hasn't progressed on the map. Actually, their mid lane tower has taken a punishment from the last Herald there. So in the end, Axiz gaining a little bit of map position, getting back into the game. And even though it's almost a 3k gold lead, or 2.5 roundabout, it's looking pretty good for them. But there's the engage again, Steel with the ultimate.
Trying to get onto the backline, but it's not working. His gang goes down very, very low. If Evie and Arya in for the back, though, Nemo's going to be in a whole lot of trouble as Honey is desperate to try and get away. Detention FocusMe close the jaws of the trap, and Axiz, they may have been starting to get comfortable. Now everything's going to hell. They get almost entirely wiped out. Detention FocusMe at 21 minutes into the game can turn back to the Baron and say, remember who the hell we are.
That was a really high-level team fight. I'm so excited to see that because there were so many cool moments in there. Nemo almost pulled it back for the side of Axiz. When we go back into the replay, he had a crucial E, almost helping his ADC to survive in the end. But yeah, too many dive threats, and the Jinx goes down, even though Arya kicked her to safety at the start of the fight. So let's take a look. They are 4 members strong, but so many flanks. And I talked in draft already about them coming from all the sides, the guerrilla tactics, trying to flank and coming from multiple angles. And you can see it's happening here. They're coming from the side. Look at Honey and at Nemo in this fight. Arya just flashing in there and kicking him actually closer to gang, which maybe wasn't the greatest decision. And Nemo there, the hero flay, but it's not quite enough. And then the rest of the team is not strong enough to really put in the work instead of Honey. So they die. Almost all of them. It's Baron time for DFM. They're back in full control of this game. 6k gold lead.
Alright, so DFM looking to try and find themselves here in summer. They're certainly showing us some of that vigor from before. I think, yeah, a beautiful flank there. It really felt like Honey suddenly realized that they were in a world of trouble when Nemo wasn't in a position to help them out anymore. DFM, they've got the Baron up in mid and in bottom as well. Penguin is pushing the top wave, so at least it's not 3 waves of Baron up minions to deal with.
And honestly, Axiz... Oh, whoa, no time for that. Another counter engagement. Gang is cored completely.
Gang gets deleted instantaneously. This could cost the Baron buff for DFM. Steel locks themselves in place, and they too will pay the price. We've got Eno getting kicked out, but wow, Axiz, after losing the fight dramatically, suddenly come back and steal away multiple Baron buffs, go straight on to the first Infernal Drake as well.
Yeah, it's a Hail Mary engage, and we know those in other games. But this time she actually answers, and she listens to the prayers of the players of Axiz and actually comes through. What a great engage there. And you play against flankers the way they play against you. You just flank them. You just attack them. And you don't actually try to play their game and grouping up and giving them angles into your backline. Instead, they just stay put together. They just go. And there's the flank from the teleport. Arya and especially Evie, with no teleport available, just overextended on the side. Arya never gets into this fight, and Utapon can't do anything because he's Jhin. So, yeah, try to hit this champion as a Jhin. It's hurt. There's nothing you can do. So, in the end, it's another fight won by Axiz. They are still 5k gold on almost 6k gold, but they collected another dragon. So, on the horizon, far, far away, there is the Infernal Soul. And they're just hoping to weather the storm.
Yeah, you've still got to have that whole angry DFM team super motivated coming into this week 2 to reverse their fortunes from the first week. I think if anything, I honestly wouldn't blame DFM for coming into this match thinking that Axiz were honestly just beneath their concern, but Axiz, they're proving that's very much not the case. Winning a fight that far behind, still putting up a strong defense, even in the face of a team that's ahead by nearly 6,000 gold.
Yeah, and the items continue coming. It's only 1.5 items for poor Mega Man, but on the side of the ADCs, 260 CS. He's moving closer and closer to his third item. The fourth item, Spike, is really where he comes online and can really carry 1v9. Eno finally building his second item against the almost purely AD composition. This is going to go a long way. Even the one AP champ uses auto attack, so the boots are going to do something against Steel there as well. So another item on Eno, another 2 items on Honey, and suddenly the team fights look very good for Axiz again. They delayed the game. They don't even have to contest any kind of objective. Maybe the Baron if it comes up again, but you don't have to go for the Dragon. Maybe you try to go for a steal with something like a Jinx ultimate or an Equalizer or anything, but don't full commit to that one. It's a little bit too scary. Just wait, farm, and pray.
It's going to take one hell of a performance here for Axiz to bring this one back, even with all of this teasing that suggests that Axiz can hold on here. Yeah, it's still an incredible ask. I mean, we've seen so many games, I'm sure both of us before, where, leads like this, they just don't get recovered from. You can hope and hope that some play is made, but you're still fighting uphill against the odds. Because, an even play just, it may be obvious to say, but an even play doesn't work when you're behind and the other team have an extra item on top of you.
None of it. Think about the way DFM has to look at this game. After last week, they were so far ahead against V3, and what happened? They threw the game. Now they were so far ahead, they got the Baron. Everything looked their way in this game, and they're playing against Axiz of all teams. It's starting to turn a little bit. It's not over, of course, for them. They're still very far ahead, but one more bad team fight, and suddenly the doubts are creeping back in. The doubts. They're going to go 0-3 with this new old teammate of Gang down in the bot lane. Suddenly you're 0-3. You're looking at the top teams at 3-0, 4-0 even. You're thinking, wow, we can't even catch them anymore, even if we go perfect season. So I think this is actually pretty dire for DFM, even though the game state in isolation looks pretty good for them.
I mean, you've got to feel for Gang here as well, coming back in and then ending up with the most deaths so far for the squad when everybody else is doing spectacularly in the team. Just finding your place back in with a very, very cohesive lineup has got to be putting the pressure on the DFM support. Of course, they're also playing a pick who decide where and when DFM fight a lot of the time. So their decision making has got to be crucial.
Absolutely. I think 249 is still a respectable scoreline for the main engager, so wouldn't blame him too much just looking at the score. But he had some over-aggression, but now Nemo, way too far forward, has to flash away. That was not great from the support from Axiz. He tried to establish a little of vision control because the Baron is back up. And the second Baron, this could really be the nail in the coffin. So Axiz has to find a way to contest the vision. He hit so hard, but Gang, where are you?
If you've seen this one before. Gang gets caught. Gang gonna get deleted. The Equalizer keeps the rest of DFM at bay. And any thoughts on the Baron, I think, just went out the window.
Look at the time. It's Infernal Dragon time. What a convenient pick there. That's going to be a free Infernal Drake. And suddenly, the Infernal Soul is a real possibility. Axiz, don't mess this one up. This is such a nice gift from the enemy team.
Evie coming in from the side. We know, isn't here quite yet, but they will be teleporting in shortly. There's no steal on the Drake available, but getting out of the fight might be a bit more. No, Arya almost manages to follow up the rest of the team, but that's 2 Infernal Drakes in the hands of Axiz right now, who are still behind on gold. We thought the Baron had been cancelled, but apparently DFM have got other ideas.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea for DFM to just run at the Baron because the enemy team is all towards the bottom side. All the vision went to the Dragon Pit, so now they have to wander into unknown territory. And the support is back up with Gang as well. So now Baron down to 7k. Can we see the game-deciding fight here?
DFM pull back of the Baron, nice hook, landing onto Arya there. The Equalizer will divide up the fight, but not do any actual damage. Here comes the Cuticle from long range. As both teams fall back in, there's some big ults gone. The Baron gets reset. It's time for round 2.
Go again. No Jinx ult, no Rumble ult available, no Rumble flash either, no Smite. This Rumble can't do anything.
The traps! Hoglet does manage to get the first kill, though, as Steel locks themselves in place. Honey is still alive. Honey's going to get the resets through here as DFM lose the fight somehow. Evie crawling away, locked in place by the zap. All the damage. DFM's hopes of a Baron may have been flipped all the way around as Axiz are the ones to move in, take it for themselves, and suddenly I'm starting to feel like DFM's lead is a lot shakier than it appeared before.
Oh, it is. Honey getting so many more kills, so much more gold under his belt. Look at his items already on 3, now moving towards IE, and once the IE is there, with Infernal Drake, or even just 2 Infernal Dragons, Infernal Soul I wanted to say earlier, it's a super scary Jinx. She doesn't really care about the rest of her team. Look at this. This first fight is actually, I actually like it quite a lot for DFM. They just disengaged from the equalizer. They know now this cooldown is done. The Jinx ultimate cooldown is done. We can just re-engage on the Baron, play it slowly, but then they overstep here. The crucial overstep, I believe, is from, let's see it again. Yeah, it's Gang once again engaging a little bit ahead of time, and then everyone follows in. They just try to engage on the enemy team, when they could have just played it more slowly, just waited for the enemy team to come into them without the Rumble Ult, without the Jinx ultimate. And in the end, it's just the Jinx slowing them down over and over and over again. Red buff zap, red buff zap, red buff zap, zap, of course. So now it's a 2k difference with a better team fighting comp, 6.1k damage from Jinx, and that's only going to get higher and higher every single team fight.
And it was that same part of the map that Axiz won out big before. Honey able to run up parallel to the fight, throw in those chompers and keep themselves safe the whole way through. DFM theoretically remain in the lead, but this Baron power play is going to do a lot of work to make that happen. You can see in the top right hand corner what this power play is worth so far. We've got the tower down, though Evie is pushing in the top lane. The inhibitor is under threat, as well as the mid lane.
It's a time to talk about the 0-3 start for DFM, really confirming their struggles. We were ready to cut them some slack to say, okay, first week was against the 2 hardest opponents, but losing against Axiz, falling 0-3 is really not a good sign for this team. And the Doubters have a lot to think about here with this looming result. They still 1 kill up, and they still can come back here, kill Honey, and move into the back line, maybe try to steal, kill everyone.
Oh boy, the bot is turning the tide as well. We can see the whole game, or nearly the whole game at least, for Detention FocusMe in their favor, but swinging back pretty definitively here. I guess the good news with Detention FocusMe is that Axiz got the Baron, but Detention FocusMe were the ones who actually opened the inhibitor.
Now, how can they really contest this Infernal Soul? 50 seconds away. There is no Baron on the map, so at least it's a singular threat, right? You only have to worry about one side of the map. Usually, at this point, the team on Infernal Soul point can just go for Baron as well, just to say, okay, you take Infernal Drake, it doesn't do anything for you. We can take the next one, and we take Baron to accelerate now. But this is all about the Infernal Soul. I want to point out the items. IE is here, 3 items for Rumble are here as well. And this might be the crucial fight around the Infernal Soul.
Looking for that crowd control chain to start from either side. Solar flare from Gang. Where's it going to be? It's going to land onto 2. We've got the long range firepower coming in.
Jinx.
The instant deletion onto the Diana. Honey is still alive, still fighting against Evie on the back end of the fight. It's a definitive win for Axiz. Utapon is still up and fighting as Inno is surely going to die. Honey puts themselves into the invincibility frames. And just like that, Axiz wipe the field of Detention FocusMe. What on earth are we watching? What world is this where Axiz get the team fight win? The death timers are enormous here. I think Axiz have done it.
Yeah, they have definitely come through. It's a 2-0 weekend for Axiz, maybe for the first time ever. We have to confirm that with our LJL experts. But Honey, I think it's just pick Jinx for Honey and you win. I guess Jinx is going to be very contested for the next few weeks, and what a win here for Axiz, moving to 2-2. You can see the elation on their faces. You can see how excited they are. They did not think this would happen. And what a great way to end the week for them. And what a horrible way to start the week for DFM. They are in dire straits, down at 0-3, the worst team in the whole league. They have 1 more game to come back. That's going to be our next and last one of the day.
I don't think any reasonable person could have remotely predicted that result coming in here. I mean, you go back to this matchup at the beginning of the season, you put it to all of the regulars, get our predictions and stuff. I don't think there's anybody who would have said this was the time where DFM would be at their bleakest in the season, would be after their game against Axiz.
Well, let's hope they're not going to get even bleaker after the next one. One more chance for them to finally win a game. And that's going to be the last game of the day. We're going to be back with some post-game to talk about this craziness and the second to last game, and then prepare for the next one. So stay tuned for another DFM game.
Welcome back to the aftermath. Welcome back to the least likely scenario that if anyone was betting on that game, good lord, they must have got a pretty good return. Always believe in Axiz, apparently, is the key here. No, wait, what the hell happened there? How did Detention FocusMe become, in your words, the worst team in the league?
I think they followed the Corona rules a little bit too strictly, right? The you know the home office rules, right? You turn on the camera, you put on a nice shirt, you look very nice to the camera, everyone respects you, and then no one actually gets to see that you're sitting there in your underpants only. So that's a little bit what is happening to DFM as well. They're putting up some nice numbers in the laning phase. They're coming in with game plans, but then come mid game, you look down and there's nothing there. They just have no coordination whatsoever. They have no idea what they're doing. So, yeah, they need to work on that one. I hope they can show us a little bit more here because their coordination is not looking great.
Well, I mean, as well, from that last game, it felt like we had the right pieces there. We've got the Gnar ultimate together with the Dino. That seems pretty straightforward. As well, we've got the long range fire from Utapon to keep them perfectly safe while all of this is going on. And Arya, ended out that game 7-3-3, so they had a good performance as well. DFM, it felt like they had all the tools for success. I guess with we'll of course be coming back for a final game in a little bit. So for DFM from that last game, what can they carry forward into game number 4, their last game of the week?
Yeah, I think on a more serious note, you have to say this was an off game. This was a best of one scenario. If you play this game 100 times, they probably win the game 90 times out of 100, right? They were in winning positions from the start, from a bit to the end. I think they were still almost in a gold lead at the end. I didn't check, but had to be very, very close because they were up quite some gold still till the last 2 minutes. So they made some crucial mistakes, and those can cost you the games. That's how League of Legends works, sadly. All the early game madness, craziness can lead to nothing if you make too many mistakes in the mid and late game. But I think, most importantly, they need to work on their coordination when it comes to pushes on side lanes, because that was ultimately the one mistake that cost them the game. Baron up, they push bot and mid lane. They have no TPs available, and they overstay their welcome in mid lane, get cored. Bot lane can't respond. AD's mid laner, that is 7 and 3, as you said, can't respond either. Suddenly everyone dies. They get another Infernal Soul, Infernal Drake. So that can't happen again. They need to work on their coordination when it comes to side lane pushing and not overstaying in the other lanes.
All right, so let's take a quick look back at one of the moments from that last game. As Axiz said, end out the week 2-0, and it's been, I don't even know when the last time it is we could say that. So we have a look through our last team fight.
Yeah, and Honey with the MVP performance. Once again, gang, maybe a little bit too far forward. You can see no one from DFM is on Honey apart from Abby, and he just doesn't bring the damage to bring down the Jinx alone. This was such a cool play from Honey to instantly. Honestly, it doesn't really do much. Even if he dies, they can finish the game. But it looks very, very cool. The last possible seconds of the auto attack actually goes off. He has to rewind the auto attack animation and actually get the resets from the Jhin, right? He reload. So the auto attack went into nothingness, and they finished the game. Very cool team fight, and just once again, an overextension from Gang. Not enough to follow up on his engage. We have seen this way too many times.
All right, guys. So that leaves us with only one last game before we are done this weekend. Detention FocusMe. The most unlikely scenario has come to pass. Now we get to see if we can stretch credulity just that little bit further, as Detention FocusMe have the last game against Burning Core. Of course, we saw doing some pretty nice stuff before, but ultimately not getting the win against the Hawks. You know, I think at this point, we're pretty much ready to accept any reality from this point forward, because apparently we've entered an alternate dimension. We hope you'll come along and join us for it. The last game of the LJL officially unofficial broadcast coming up after the break.